Look at that amazing opening intro video. And the podcast listeners are wondering what the hell we're talking about. But we are live, pal. Myself, Garrett Gonzalez, here with Andrew Zarian. Just a little bit, again, for the podcast, for the video podcast watchers. I just got back from the dentist. And I
thought you were at Titan Tower.
Well, I am at Titan Tower. Did you see PSAs kind of running by?
Doot.
So I had go to the dentist, and I told the dentist that I have a show to do at 1:00. I need to be able to feel my bottom lip in order to speak and not drool all over the place. So
yeah,
she said, "Look, we'll go light on the lidocaine," and I thought, well, it may hurt a little bit more, but at least I'll be able to do the show. Hopefully, my face and everything looks normal, and my lips are moving correctly. But anyways, what a crazy, insane last 14 hours from Raw last night to wrestling this morning. We're going to hit everything, but I have to do this, which is, before we get into it, yesterday was Valentine's Day, dude. Did you and the wife with the 2 kids, were you guys able to do anything?
So Jess and I, we did a thing over the weekend. We just went to our favorite bar or favorite restaurant. We did our whole thing. I have a tradition with my daughter on Valentine's Day where we go out to dinner. So my daughter and I went out to dinner, and then I came home and had
nice.
2 bottles of champagne and
yes.
had a really bad hangover to deal with all this morning.
We had some champagne as well. The wife and I watched the new J-Lo movie, Marry Me, which is on Peacock. And for rom-coms that are on Peacock, totally fine, except one thing. Now, I want to get your opinion on this, and people are like, get to the wrestling stuff. I know.
Yeah.
J-Lo and Owen Wilson in this movie together. Is that a match for you?
I feel like she did that movie in the 90s.
Well, she did a bunch of them.
Wait a minute. Oh,
the wedding planner.
Wedding planner. That was a
Made
wedding
in
planner,
Manhattan. Yeah, she did a bunch
Terrible.
of them. But so Owen Wilson
is my all-time favorite one. Geely.
Ben would have been great in this movie with her. I didn't buy the Owen Wilson thing. It was like they were, prepping her like, hey, we got this idea for you. We got one of the Wilson brothers. And she's like, Luke? Awesome. And they're like, not quite Luke. And she's like, oh, there's a third Wilson brother? What's going on here? Nope, it's Owen. But anyways, totally watchable. Check it out if you like J-Lo. All right, buried the lead enough here. So I woke up this morning, saw a note from Tony Khan that said a bunch of things. But in the end, I have immense respect and appreciation for Cody and Brandi, and I wish them both the best as they move on from AEW. Thank you, Cody and Brandi. So we've known for a few weeks now that Cody was working without a contract. It was part of storyline as well.
Yeah.
And the news comes out that he is not on that they're wishing him well, which means to me that he's not working for them anymore. It doesn't necessarily mean that he is WWE bound right now, but it could mean that. So why don't you decipher all of this stuff for us? Because I know you have a lot of information on this story.
So I guess I'll start it off I want to piece this together so people kind of have an idea of how the information was coming out, okay? Because I think that's key here. I heard nothing until about Friday, and I started getting these cryptic messages. I think Brian on Wrestling Observer Live said the same exact thing. I got a number that was not stored in my phone. I get a text saying, hey, do you know what's going on? And I was like, who is this? I don't know who this. So I'll tell you, it was a Connecticut number. Okay. It was a Connecticut area code.
It may have come from where I'm at right now.
It very well could have been at Titan Tower. It was Michael Hayes. He's, it was Bruce from Connecticut. So it wasn't. By the way, it wasn't Bruce Pritchard, and it was not Michael Hayes. I don't want to, because already there are rumors that Bruce is telling me stuff. I've never had a conversation with the man. So I get this text, and I was like, okay, this has to be a WWE story. I was like, I don't know. And that was it. They didn't say anything to me after that. So I actually reached out to people at WWE, and the people that I was talking to had no clue what this was about at all. So apparently, a lot of people got that message on Friday, and then on Saturday, I heard that everything was getting downplayed as far as what the story was. It's not that big of a deal. Yesterday, I was bombarded all day with it's sometime in the afternoon. Do you know what this big story is? So in my mind, I'm thinking it's WWE, and somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, Kevin Owens is doing this Austin thing." So I think it's that, and I think a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
thought it was that too. So
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to watch Raw live, so I was really not on top of this. However, same time I start getting the Cody's out messages. Cody's out, Cody's out, Cody's out. He's leaving. A lot of people that I spoke to, especially the talent, thought this was some sort of elaborate storyline or a work.
Mm-hmm.
So this morning, I got a call from somebody in an official position at WWE, pretty much telling me that, hey, and I ended up, and this is the wild thing to me here, right? And this is the piece that we need to kind of concentrate on. I didn't get this from AEW
Yep.
until I contacted someone to confirm it at AEW, and they did. They confirmed it for me at AEW. But this was coming from the WWE side of stuff.
Yep.
Multiple people, not one person, not two people. It was multiple people. That Cody is out of AEW, and his camp, and that was the word that was used, was in direct contact with WWE officials. They had been talking. So I don't know if the conversation began on Monday, if it began on Friday, if it began on Wednesday. I don't know the exact time. So the conversation started, and they are. I don't listen. There's no contract signed. I know that. There's nothing signed as of 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. But it looks like he may be heading over there because the WWE guys were they were waving their WWE flag in victory with this.
Right.
I'm just, it's, I was very shocked at the reaction that this was getting from that side,
Mm-hmm.
because normally I've never seen I've been covering wrestling for 11 years with Rich, been doing it on the Observer for a year now. I have never seen a celebration of sorts, with a not with someone that hasn't signed yet. So
Right.
they
Right.
see this as a win. I was told multiple times that optics wise, this looks bad for AEW and this looks great for WWE, especially with the fact that not only was he an on-air top talent, he's an EVP, he's one of the founders, conceptualized the whole idea. So this is a mega story. This is huge. Now, do you want me to go into some of the nitty-gritty stuff
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is
No,
not officially confirmed?
we should definitely do that. But I have a question for
Okay.
you, which is
How my day
you.
got ruined? Yes, it did.
Yes. Well, I imagine so. You've probably been talking to people since you woke up this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, because you mentioned it, this comes from side of WWE. This doesn't come from side of AEW. So I'm assuming, and this is a big assumption, like I don't know anything here, but they wanted to get this out in front before the response from AEW could be the story. Um,
Yeah.
and so I mean, to some extent, I kind of get it because it's been all the other way around pretty much since AEW started, right? All the guys have been
Absolutely,
going
yeah.
to the other side, and then Tony Khan gets to create something on social media, or he gets to debut them, and so it's been their version of the story. So it seemed like here WWE wanted the other version of the story, which is, look, we can still get guys, the important ones who we believe are important, not these folks who we don't even really want on the roster anymore. And then they can get that word out to be like,
Yeah.
this is a thing for us. So it almost feels like they believe Cody can be kind of like a reverse John Moxley. Like Moxley was like, I always call him the first domino, right? He goes over there,
Sure.
and then WWE talent's like, oh, like he gets to be himself and he gets to be the best version of John Moxley. So this could be the other way around, at least as if I'm reading this correctly, that they may think like Cody is going to be our version of Moxley, and it will show the current AEW talent, that things are still positive on this side, and we're still the place to be, essentially.
By the way, I'm getting messaged as we speak about this, so I'm trying to go through the details here. So, yes, to all of it, right? Yes, this is the first time that we've seen some sort of jump like this, or a potential jump like this. This is optics wise. This is optics wise, great PR for WWE, bad PR for AEW. Now, I'm going to go into some of the details here. Okay, some of the wording that was used to me specifically. Something happened on Friday. That's how I'm feeling about this. I don't know what. Something happened on Friday because that's when all the chatter began. Especially coming to me. It very well could have been on Wednesday.
I mean, it
But
could have been like a negotiation thing, right? Like maybe they negotiated on Friday, and whatever happened.
So this, from what was said to me, and again, this isn't my words, right? This is coming from someone I would say is very familiar with what's going on. This is not just a financial thing. I did a thing this morning talking about this, where generally
with Nason,
when you have with Nason, yeah. And by the way, fantastic. I mean, he's great. If you haven't checked him out, I definitely, guys, go check out the show. He doesn't do video; it's an audio version, but he did a great job, and it was a quick 20-minute thing. When you are in a position of, obviously he wasn't an owner, but he is in a top tier position, right? He's an EVP. He's a corporate side guy. You don't pick up and leave for just a financial thing when you're there from the ground up. There's stuff going on, and the rumors are coming out that him and Tony have been having disagreements. There's something going on there. I don't know if it's all true. Somebody sent me a link to a Forbes article and said this really upset certain people, especially Cody. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true, but this kind of plays into everything because
wait, what was the Forbes article?
Sent me that. It was the Forbes video, the profile they did on Tony, and Tony starts it off by pretty much listing, I'm the GM, I'm the booker, I'm the this, I'm the that. Essentially, he's a one-man show.
I own 100% of the stock.
Yeah. Like one of those. And, listen, he is the guy, right? He is the decision maker. He is the guy. He owns a company. That came out as certain people took that as, why is he taking all the credit, right? And listen, who cares? Yeah, that's how I feel. I would not. I'm not bothered by those kind of things, but certain people are.
Sure.
I don't know if that's necessarily one of the things, but it was a multitude of things. We've seen the stories that, maybe he was having issues with the other EVPs. Sean Ross Sapp had a report, and I could tell you that I heard the same thing, that he really wasn't as hands-on with the talent as he was a year ago. Listen, he's busy. He just had a kid, right? He had a kid. He's doing
two other
shows
shows
with
2
other shows. He's wrestling. He's doing behind-the-scenes stuff. Like, you can't blame him for being busy, but there are a few things that now you look back, you're like, okay, well, that didn't make sense. Like, one word that was used was a Cody vortex to me, and I have no idea what that means. And that was an argument that this is a work.
Got it.
People were saying like, oh no, this is like a Cody vortex, and it's not. This was Monday. This was said to me, and then the attitude totally changed this morning. But this is a big story, and there's more detail that's going to come out. Obviously, we got to be careful. I don't like to talk about the gossip as much as some other people. I'm not going to start pointing fingers anywhere, but I think this comes out to I don't believe it's a fundamental thing, a financial thing. I think it's a fundamental issue that him and Tony had. Maybe it's a direction issue. Maybe it's a corporate issue.
Okay, I have a little bit of experience with Cody and Brandy. What I will say is, this goes back to when Cody went back to the Indies, right? Cody goes back to the Indies, and he's like the most professional independent wrestler in the history of independent wrestling. Like, he shows up, he's wearing a suit. When he does his little meet and greets, very professional presentation. Like, he's just down pat, just a very impressive guy. Now, my partner on Fight Game Podcast, John LaRocca, he was helping with the booking when Cody came to AEW, which is APW, sorry, which is
Mhm.
my local. And the owner is a guy by the name of Marcus Mack. Everything that they told me about Cody was like, this dude is an ace to deal with, just
Yeah.
perfect. I've all so part of that is Cody is very, very aware of the presentation piece of Cody Rhodes, right? Like he is 100, like, not to say that he is like methodical or everything is a process, but he knows when the cameras are going to be on. He knows when he's going to be quoted. Now, I actually had a really fascinating conversation with Brandy. Like I find Brandy to be so interesting, though on her TV character doesn't actually come across that way.
Portray that,
And
yeah.
and them together as a couple, as a pro wrestling it couple, like they look like $1,000,000 together, right? Like that's kind of the thing. So when it comes to the beginning of AEW, because Cody is so impressive, he knows how to spin a quote. He's always in a suit. He's a handsome dude, very presentable. I think some of the people who were trying to talk about the beginning of this company gave him a lot more credit than he probably deserved as far as the very beginning, because let's even go back to uh when he left WWE, right? It was the Bucks and Omega, and they're in Japan, and Cody kind of, I don't know exactly how it worked, but he hitched onto their coattails, right? Like he was still
He
in
wasn't the focus,
WWE.
yeah.
Yeah, so he figured it out very quickly. Like these guys are onto something. Same with Jericho, right? These guys are onto something. I want to be a part of this. Now, I may not be giving him enough credit in that way because I don't actually know the when and the wheres and the who's, but I do know that when it came to the PR stuff, when it came to him being quoted, he came across as like maybe a little bit having more credit, and which is the reverse of what you just said, which is Tony is the one with. So I could definitely see a slight butting of the heads there. And coming from my background, which is small startup companies, the way that it tends to work is you get feedback from everybody, right? Everybody has a
Mhm.
voice very early on, and those voices often are in conflict, but at the end of the day you're still part of the same thing. So if the perception was that Cody a year ago, when we were the start, when we were just beginning, and he was more the focus in the ring. Yeah, he was more hands on, but now it's about the Cody brand. It's about the 2 TV shows, and he doesn't have as much time to get AEW to where it needs to go. I could see how that could be one of the narratives, but based on what you said and what I know about him and sort of how I see him, it does make sense that there could be, maybe a miscommunication here or there. And then you also got to wonder, what does Cody feel that he is worth? I know you said it's not about the money, but the whole game right now is we got to play both sides to get the most of what we feel is our value. And Cody's still a young dude. If he were to go to WWE, you said that's not happening yet. I fully believe that. If he was to go and he signs a 3-year deal, in 3 years, if AEW and WWE are kind of like neck and neck, he's so much more valuable again. So
Absolutely.
some of this is negotiating, some of this is these pro wrestlers now understanding their value in the pro wrestling spectrum, and that part of it shouldn't be understated.
So when I say what I don't think it's about the money, I obviously it's everything is about the money,
Everything's
but
about money.
I you're talking about a guy that's paid very well in a very comfortable job that he could have for life. Technically, essentially, if he does everything he's supposed to do, he doesn't really have that fear of I'm gonna lose my spot on the card because he's in the office. He's planning things, and I think Cody's been positioned in a very good spot in the company, and they've been very careful with him not being the focal point. And same thing with all the other guys, with the Bucks and Kenny because of their EVP connection. But I think now, absolutely, if he goes to WWE, this is a major financial thing for him. He's not going for less, and I think WWE is going to, throw money at him because this is a great story, once again, in the war of, WWE versus everybody else. Listen, I don't know what they're going to offer him. If they offer, a couple mil, obviously, but let's say $5 million. Let's say $3 million, right? In the wrestling business, you don't know when this ends. Tomorrow, you could make 1 centimeter of a turn on your leg and destroy your leg, and you're done. Your career's over. That's it. What are you going to do now? It's like, the story of the football player, before the NFL became the NFL, the guy wins a Super Bowl and he's selling used cars.
Yeah.
At his brother-in-law's place. That's a reality. And I think even in wrestling, it's still a reality. And he's doing what he thinks is best for him, his family, his kid. He's 36 years old. He does this for another couple years. Let's say they throw him, he can make potentially $15 million in 3 years and go back and start having fun again. These are all conversations that we don't really know. We don't know the thinking, the thought process. I'm always like, I don't pick a side with this stuff ever. You know that about me. I think I attempt to do that, and sometimes it comes off that I'm one-sided because I try not to interject one-sided, thing. But I think this is a gain for WWE because they're going to take this and run home with it. I could tell you that the articles are going to start coming out once he signs about what a detrimental blow this is to AEW. And because this is an optics war, at the end of the day, perception is king. You could have the best television product, but if they're perceived as something negative is going on and they perceived as losing, then that's what they become. And I'm not saying that that's what I think of AEW. I think AEW has a tremendous upside. Their future is bright. They're doing great stuff on Turner. But this is we're going to look back at this and say, wow, this was the first one. This was the first, departure. And I don't know. I think, what happens, where does Cody go now? Let's say he goes to WWE, which I don't think his career's ending. I don't think, dude, you know what? He's going to GCW winning the title. I'm calling it right now. Next GCW champion is going to be Cody Rhodes. Him, I'm telling you, him and Jeff Jarrett are going to become tag team champions together. I could see it happening.
And then they're going to bring back Global Force Wrestling, which was a joke.
Global Force Wrestling will be back. Yeah, why doesn't he start defending the Global Force title? Matt Cardona's defending the ECW Television Championship. I think at the end of the day, this is a lot. It's very interesting to me.
It's
PR
so
war
intriguing.
is going to begin.
Yeah.
And I think, and unfortunately for Tony, I think he's going to be the one getting hit the hardest here in that PR war. I think this is part of that optics battle, and I don't want to fill in blanks, with some of the stuff that I'm hearing, but I think that there is going to be a big optics battle when it comes to this story. When the New York Post starts putting the article, when Business Insider's putting out a negative AEW story already, that Forbes piece, which was a great piece on Tony. A lot of people were talking about it. Maybe that was a catalyst to some of this. It's never one thing. It's multiple things. I personally think that AEW is not going to suffer from this, but this is the first shot that of a departure, a major departure happening. Now, here's what I'm going to ask you. Does Cody just want to be an on-air talent, or is he looking to be more hands-on on the business side? Because if that is the case, I think he's a great asset for WWE to have. He's young. He's 36 years old. He ran a company for 2-3 years. He knows everything that the other side is doing. I'm sure there's NDAs, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other documents signed. You don't let someone go that has not inside knowledge like this, but what do you do? Do you put him as far as, maybe talent, something with talent relations, something with the television product, with NXT, since he has his developmental program that has been pumping out, some key guys? There's a lot of parts
the
to
Dusty
this.
Cup is tonight, right?
Dusty Cup's tonight. He could show up tonight. He could show up tonight. There's no, he's been out of a contract for 6 weeks. So
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, who knows what his
I
date
can't
is when he's
believe,
officially free.
I can't believe that we are on the cusp of a possible Stone Cold Steve Austin return. And
And
that story
it's
got
buried on the
buried by
second
Cody.
page.
Unbelievable.
Amazing.
Unbelievable. I thought that
Yeah,
was going to be my whole day.
we'll we'll talk about that in a second here, but I want to go back
Yeah.
a little bit to the Cody thing, and I don't want to contradict what I was just saying. The thing about pro wrestling is that there's so many things going on. It is not a true team sport, right? This is not James Harden tanking and the Nets start losing because he's tanking. This
Yeah.
is Cody Rhodes is he has to get himself over because in getting himself over, it helps the company. So this isn't like a true like team sport kind of thing. So when I was saying, yeah, he's doing Go Big Show and he's doing Rhodes to the Top, like those are all things that he needs to do for his own brand, which you would think would then help AEW. So being selfish in wrestling is a weird thing because you have to stay over, or else, like you just mentioned, with the football analogy, you could be yesterday's news, and then boom, you're all of a sudden not in a good role anymore. So we've been talking about since the beginning of when is WWE going to start paying attention? When is Vince McMahon going to wake up from his hibernation, right? When is Vince going to show us that he can still throw his fastball? With Nick Khan, there are things that are constantly going on in the back. You sort of mentioned some of these things, like where are these stories going to end up? You could come to your own conclusions about how those stories are going to be created. But because of how powerful Nick Khan is, and someone who does his job as well as he does, there's lots of stuff that's going on that we don't even really
Tons.
know details about, right? That have to do with this war, the optics war, the wrestling war. There's going to be stuff that either do or don't come out related to this, where you're going to be like, wow, there's so much more than we even understand currently about this competition. So, as a fan, this is the best thing for professional wrestling because AEW is going to constantly try to step their game up, and WWE is going to constantly have to step their game up, right? Dave and I just did a show on Friday, and in the recent Observer, he looked at all the numbers, and Dave's hypothesis was that if WWE falls by the same percentage, which does have to do with somewhat of cable homes decreasing just in general, and AEW stays at the current level that they're at, and maybe even does a little bit better, that they could start surpassing WWE in the 18 to 49 demo, both male and female combined. So that's
Yeah.
an interesting thing, right? If in a year and a half, we've caught up, or AEW's caught up or has surpassed WWE, then that next TV deal probably looks even better, and then maybe they can compete dollar for dollar for some of this big name talent. And so this whole thing is fascinating. I'm so happy that we're kind of covering it as it is going, but it's going to be even juicier in a year, in 2 years, because I think WWE will have to realize that they're not going away. They're sticking around, and everything that they've done so far hasn't worked, and yet now we have this thing with Cody, which could be the genesis of more things to come. But we
Yeah.
just kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah. So, let me touch on a couple other things here because I'm getting a bunch of comments here. So I want to find some of the stuff that I wanted to touch on. So another thing here will be, let me pull this. So a lot of people brought up that bizarre Cody promo from a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
talking about how he's the actual forbidden door. And now it kind of, brings a different light where they were talking about CM Punk returning, and
Yep.
that was a very bizarrely aggressive promo on CM Punk. I think a lot of this is going to tell a story here. There's a lot of truths to this. Like, he came out and he said, I've had this promo for a while. Like, it wasn't that bizarre that he came out? He's like, I got this promo for a while. I was told that I shouldn't use it now, but I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to do it. So here it is. And then he goes into talking about how he's the forbidden door and CM Punk really didn't do anything. And he's the one that did it, that everything that CM Punk was saying. So I'm like, okay, is he building a program with CM Punk, or is this an actual shot at him in some capacity, right?
Yeah.
I also some I'm going to hold off on the other thing. I need to confirm it. I don't want to
Plus, you got to save something for Matman.
I got to save something for Matman and Wrestling Observer Live.
There you go.
Like, when it comes to this kind of stuff, I don't like to throw in the rumored stuff. I like to talk about things that I've actually personally heard. I've heard, secondhand, thirdhand, stories, but I think with this, we have to now stay with the core of what's going on, and that's Cody left a very cushy position to go back to the company that he despised, that caused them to kind of have to reinvent themselves after how he was treated, and now he's back there. What does that mean?
Yeah. Yep.
That's the big story here.
Let's use this as a transition, because we do want to talk about the Austin thing, which was the news from last night. Cody, I know, it'd be cool for Cody to show up on NXT, but it wouldn't mean anything on stupid Sci-Fi today, right? The big way to debut him, there's a WrestleMania coming up, that they're trying to sell how many tickets for, right? So tons and tons of tickets.
Dave's guess was they were going to have 85,000 both nights, right? Wasn't that Dave's guess?
Yes.
Dude, very possible now.
Well, okay, so it'll show us what the draw is of Austin and what some of this, this is what AEW does extremely well. I wrote about this. I don't write very much anymore, but I did write about this, which was the art of the surprise. They use the internet to create the hype about something that they are planning on using as a surprise. Bryan Danielson showing up at All Out. They never made one mention of it. All the fans knew what was happening, or were very hopeful that it was happening. Then it becomes the biggest thing, right? This could be WWE's version of that, where let's create the hype for Cody showing up at WrestleMania, and we don't even have to necessarily announce him as being there. Maybe it is even more of a big deal if we let the internet and
speculate.
People like us, right? People like us who do these shows, create the talk. This is like old school radio. You're just creating the hype for a football game, 2 weeks out. And by the time the game comes up, everyone's so excited because we've been talking about it forever. That could be something where, they're in Texas. He's got this giant tattoo on his neck. He fits in very well for that show.
By the way, let me just tell you, Cody's gone, but that tattoo has 2 years left on the contract. He's still signed on with AEW, the tattoo. By the way, I thought of that. I got to give credit. I thought of that, and I ran it by my wife. I was like, hey, what do you think of this? And she goes, perfect. I hate that tattoo. And I just fired it away. So she screened the joke.
There you go.
I can't wait till someone's like, Andrew, really? The tattoo has a contract for 2 years? And again, I don't
the tattoo,
know if he signed.
the tattoo is going to be in the video game, right? It's got to be in the AEW
tattoo will
video
have
game.
to be in the video. That'll be in the video game. Now, again, he's not signed as of 3 p.m., but when I spoke to people at WWE, they'll deny, I don't think they want to deny anything, because I think they kind of want it to float out there.
Sure.
That if he is going, if he's not, I wouldn't be surprised if WWE.com had an article on Cody. If there's a YouTube video highlighting Cody winning the IC title or something. But the other thing we got to remember is that this is a very different Cody from 2016.
Sure.
He's a very different man. He, being out on the independents and starting a company, it gave him, 30 years of knowledge, or to somebody that already has this abundant amount of knowledge of professional wrestling because of who his father and his brother are, and who he is as being someone that, started out in WWE and went through the program. I hope he is super successful in whatever he does. If he goes to WWE and becomes, why not? Why can't he? I think it'd be pretty cool. Night after WrestleMania, he challenges Roman for the title. Like think about the buzz that would get.
Yeah, he is also a much better wrestler than when he left, because when he left, he only knew that way,
WWE.
the way that WWE does things. He went to the Indies, he went to New Japan. He's still not my favorite wrestler. Like, I think he does sometimes a little bit too many goofy high spots, but like, he's got some real world experience to now come back and go like, and some of that, right? Some of him
Hmm.
leaving was they took all of his confidence away the first time, right? It was goofy gimmick, and even though I very much loved dashing Cody Rhodes with the mustache, but
Oh, it's
that,
fantastic.
like,
Yeah.
he couldn't do the things that he wanted to do because he would come to the ideas and they're like, nope, you're Stardust, and like, it's like, oh, I have this idea for this. Nope, you're gonna have this mustache. So he comes back, hopefully ton of confidence. And here's something that is a little undervalued, I think, which is, depending, and again, nothing is done, but if we are sort of looking forward and WWE does want to sign him, the higher dollar value he gets signed to, the more secure his push is, I think, because Vince isn't going to want to sign
Hmm.
someone to a high dollar value and then just, not do anything with him. I'm not saying he's going to be Roman Reigns and Brock. Like, those are two of the Vince McMahon's favorite toys there, but he will hopefully, by, if he was to sign a bigger deal, make sure that he is not back in that Stardust costume, right? That's
Yeah, I
also
don't see
part
that
of this.
happening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I don't
part
see
of
that
this.
happening. And especially, and here's the other thing, right? Since the corporate restructure of how, that they cleaned house. They released, I mean, just what was it, 100 and something total? 148 people, 150 people. I think it was 80 something this year. And a lot of those, not everyone, but a lot of that had to do with looking at the P&Ls and saying like, okay, well, we're paying this guy. I'm just going to throw out a random guy and a random number. Okay. We're paying Garrett $3.5 million. He's making this much on merch. He's making this much on this. He's making this much on the toy. So in total, he has a $3 million downside guarantee plus, plus, plus. So he's making like $7 million. Is he generating the revenue that he needs to for us? And the answer for a lot of these guys was no. And they released them. However, people that are getting paid good money have been put in key positions. Kevin Owens is one of those names, right? They re-signed him. Obviously, he's making good money. And all of a sudden, he's put in a top tier position and he's not being wasted, running around for the 24/7 title. We've seen this happen where they've kind of realigned based on how much they're paying people. And I think that's 100% Nick Khan. I think that's a very different way to look at stuff. And if you are signing a Cody for X amount of millions of dollars, you're going to want to get as much money as you can and get that return back.
Yes.
You're not going to have them running around for, with R-Truth. I'm not, no knock at R-Truth. I hate naming names because then people think I'm knocking them. You're not going to be running
Our
around.
truth is great at his job.
R-Truth is fantastic at the job, but R-Truth's value is even outside of the ring. He's so media friendly.
Yeah.
So you could do whatever you want with him, and that's an added value. I think for Cody, the reality show, that's probably going to be some sort of package deal where he's going to want it, and that's right up WWE's alley to put it on Peacock. The game show is going to be great marketing for them if he's going to continue doing that, or he could do something with Peacock. This is not just, I can't see him just going and wrestling for WWE and being in the mid card and just calling it a day and being happy with that. This is someone that's very driven. Very, very driven, and I think this is going to be a bigger package.
All right, let's put a nail in this one. You'll have more stuff for Matt Man, Wrestling Observer Live. I'm sure I'll have some. Dave. All of a sudden now the Wednesday show with Brian and Dave, people are going to circle, and then when I talk to Dave on Friday, they'll have more stuff from the newsletter. So stay tuned to F4W online, both on YouTube and on the website. Okay, so Kevin Owens, you mentioned Kevin Owens. So last night, the story was the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin to a wrestling ring. Now, I didn't believe it because I was just like, gosh, like for the, I was in WrestleMania in Houston for WrestleMania 25, and
2000
like
and
2009.
2000. 25, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was 13 years ago, and there was rumors that they were trying to talk him into wrestling then. Then the CM Punk stuff happened before Punk left. There was the little tease with Brock Lesnar when they did the Austin podcast thing. And so we've seen these opportunities for him to return over, many times since 2003 when he left the ring. And now in 2022,
At
Stone Cold
57.
Steve Austin at 57 years old is going to come back to do a wrestling match, and it's not against a celebrity. He's not going to stun Donald Trump again. Kevin Owens is like one of their top guys, so this actually has to be somewhat of a match. It can't be just Austin comes in, Owens turns around, flips him off, stunner, boom, match is over. It can't be that. At least I hope not. But I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
what did you think about this when you heard this last night?
So I didn't really make anything of it until I started having people message me from WWE, and I'm seeing, again, I don't think it's officially signed, but what was said to me is that this is as close as we've ever gotten.
I mean, on Wrestling Observer Radio last night, Dave sure made it sound like his expectation was that Austin was going to be in a match.
That's the expectation from everybody over there. And the other thing is, I don't think this is a one-off. If they do, this is, again, my speculation based on what was said. I wouldn't imagine that this would be, if he is having a match, right? If he's actually going to have a match, and it's not just him coming out stunning Kevin Owens and getting a 1, 2, 3 and making a 3-second, bit, which is very possible they could do that. They could announce it and something could happen. I would think, you convince this man that you've been trying to convince for 17 years to come back. You finally have now convinced him you're going to only do one. I think Saudi Arabia had offered him, it was like a $3 million a match offer, right?
Austin and Goldberg, brother. Let's do it.
Why? Now is the time. Let us suffer through this, okay? I'm okay with this. I'm fine. I don't even want the match to be good. I don't want it to be anything. I have zero expectations. If Dave gives it a dud, I'm still happy because it finally happened.
Is he going to bring back the negative stars?
I don't think it would be a negative. I think just the sheer excitement, from people. Now the big story is, how can Austin bump? Does he want to? Who's going to protect them? I mean, if he's brawling, then great. I think he'll do a great job. Him and Goldberg could do a quick 5 to 7 minute thing, and you got it out of the way. And now you have that footage forever.
Mm-hmm.
You could sell the commemorative ring mats and sell a square off that ring mat for $300. You're going to see that happen. I would imagine if he does do something with Kevin Owens, this would not be a one-off. They would want to capitalize on a larger thing. But, he did do that interview where WWE, I think it was for one of the social channels, and they're like, give me your top 3 opponents. What did he say? He said
not the same
Brock Lesnar, right? He said Brock Lesnar. Who else did he say?
I think it was he only gave one name. I think they said, who would you want to wrestle if you came back, or who of the current folks do you wish you could wrestle, or something like that. And he said Lesnar. That was for sure. 100%.
He definitely said Lesnar, but
yeah,
that's another match, and they're friendly. You could build a program on his podcast. Something happens, and now him and Lesnar are in a feud. This is very different for WWE. I know that, for years we were told that the older guys are old and that's it, and they're done. But now they've gotten into this thing where they embrace the older talent because they haven't created the stars that they should have over the last 15 years. And these guys have tremendous pull. And now look at the WrestleMania lineup. Now, if Austin's in a match, Garrett, I'm considering going now. And I had no consideration. So now you added Ronda to this. If you add Austin to this, it becomes a very different story. And then next year you do Dwayne. And now you got that show.
I'm glad you brought up Dwayne, who was center stage at the Super Bowl this weekend doing the introductions.
Fantastic intro.
Because okay, so here's what I thought is the Austin move the pivot because they're not sure about Dwayne anymore. Because you just said they could do another match with Austin. Austin, I don't think he lives in LA anymore, but he was in LA for a while. They have that, SoFi Stadium next year. They're probably going to do 2 WrestleManias again.
Him and Dwayne one last time.
Well, I didn't even think of that, but I was just thinking if Rock isn't there, you have Austin as the backup plan, and so you kind of have that moving for next year as well.
Uh, it all depends on Steve, like he's 57 years old. I think one interview he did, he said he's probably the healthiest he's ever been as far as his knees and his neck goes, and maybe he got the itch. He saw guys like Edge return. Sting at 62 years old is doing some really cool stuff, and he's moving really well. Obviously Sting has stayed far more active than Steve has, but how do you not want to see this? I want to see it because I'm a fan, and this is tickling, the nostalgia in my head. I don't want to see Steve do this every week, obviously, and I don't think we're going to see that. But if you are going to get one last guy that you haven't gotten, who's left? You can't go back to Hogan. He's never going to work again like that.
No.
He's Flair too busy.
Is done. He's too busy on Facebook Live.
Yeah, Bret Hart. Obviously, you can't. I know who Hogan or Flair.
Yeah, Hogan. Hogan and Flair.
I want them to move in together with like an aide. I want them to like get a little older and they have like this aide, and you just follow. It's like a reality show, but not
Legends House.
Just the camera on them, just with Hogan and Flair, just with them. You start gigging everywhere.
That'd be amazing.
Like they're like, okay, we're gonna do a prank, and he just starts bleeding everywhere. I mean, it's fantastic, right? So, yeah. You can't do these guys. Yeah, you don't have that well anymore. And who's left? Who's that last guy that you could bring? And it's if Austin could do it, I am very excited for it. And maybe some of this, I'm being maybe blinded a little bit with my own personal excitement, but that's fine. It's okay.
I was down on it last night because I just felt like we had all of these opportunities to do this. Now, you bring up a great point. Maybe he wasn't healthy, and maybe now he's feeling better, though he's pretty jacked for 57. I don't know how that's going to be. He's carrying some weight there just for muscle alone. But I started to think about the promos, right? That would be... Like, if you're talking about Monday Night Raw, which I do not watch live, and I have not watched live I don't know when's the last Monday Night Raw show that I've actually watched live from front to back. Maybe like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But if you tell me Austin's opening up that show and he's answering Kevin Owens, I'm there. I have to be there from the first minute.
It's not just you. Not just you. Million, maybe another million extra people. Maybe 500,000. Let's say 500,000 people. That's a tremendous number for them. For this guy to bring in, and if that's exactly how they should do it. Steve Austin will answer Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
So very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. This was a hectic day, but a very exciting day when you talk about professional wrestling and when you talk about what's going on. This is the cool thing about this business where things like this happen. And when they do, it just starts it gets out of control. And on the AEW side, we still have to talk about, who's next to go over there. That's also a big thing in play. I've been saying 2022 is going to be a very pivotal year for the business, and we're only 6 weeks in, and already things are playing out.
By the way, did you ever figure out who the random text was from? Was it from Vic Venom?
No, I know who it is. I can't say it though.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And it was not Bruce from Connecticut. It was not Bruce from Connecticut.
All right. So we have 10 minutes left here, and so we have some questions that people have been posting, and James from YouTube has basically what you just said. who would be the next to leave? And he specifically asked for your point of view on this.
Okay.
So,
Well,
who would be
let me
the
think.
next to leave?
Um, I could I could see Jericho going back for a little bit, you know. I don't know whose contracts are up or whatever, but this is something interesting, right? The last couple of weeks, a couple weeks ago, I put out that little clip that people at WWE were very excited about MJF, and they had seen what he could do, and the CM Punk program really put a lot of eyeballs on him, and
Yeah.
that was a topic of discussion. The other thing now is Jade. A lot of questions about Jade. And I had a conversation with somebody at WWE, and they said, wow, she's fantastic on TV. Her presence is unbelievable. We would love to have her or someone like her. They were careful with this, but it just showed that some eyeballs were on. Weren't both of them, they're part of Cody's people, right?
Yeah. Did you see
So
the interview that Jay did recently?
where is it a couple weeks ago, right? Where she was talking about, she's only had 30 some odd matches and she was in developmental and all that stuff.
So there was a comment that she made about when she was figuring between AEW and WWE. One of the things that she pointed out, and I don't know if this was the number one turnoff or whatever, but basically it was told to her that, you have a daughter, like, what are you going to do? And she's like, what do you mean? Like, I'll bring my family with me if I have to. They're like,
Yeah.
no, but we're your new family. And so it was like, I'm reading this thing going like,
Yeah.
imagine being so proud of what you've created as a mother. Her, I don't know if they're married, but her significant other is Brandon Phillips, who used to play second base for the Cincinnati Reds. Dat Dude BP was his Twitter handle. So they're like, they've got money. Like, so WWE's going here like, well, you're gonna have to give up this, you're gonna have to give up that, and we're your new family. And it's just like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
get me away from these people.
One
So
of us. One.
so I don't know, like, she seems to have had a little bit of a more negative portrayal of WWE practices. So but if you're WWE, she's like 100% the type of person who they would go after, right? Just looks tremendous presence. Yeah, we're looking for athletes. We'll teach them how to wrestle. Like, the wrestling is not, of course, up to par, but I guess she's been working with Bryan Danielson of late to improve. But yeah,
Yeah.
she seems like she'd be right on their radar, maybe like circled number one, actually.
She
All
would
right.
be a great asset to their women's division for sure.
Um, so there's a couple of questions about Cody. So here's another one from someone from Twitch. They said, do you think that Cody is a needle mover for WWE business, or is it just the idea they got someone to go the other way that is good for business? And this is actually a really good question, because
Yeah.
I think they're related, and I think you can say yes to both. I think Cody is going to just move eyeballs because he's Cody and they want to see what he's going to do. He's created enough of a presence on AEW to mean something more on WWE TV than he's ever meant before. And also, yeah, the just getting someone going to the other side is what moves the needle for business as well. So I think you could say yes to both of those.
Yeah, I will he be a needle mover when he shows up? 100%. I think if he debuts, it's going to create buzz. They're going to do their social media optics, and they're going to sit there on a Tuesday or a Saturday when the following day, and they're going to say, "My God, look at the engagement levels! Look at this." But long term, I mean, we'll find out. It really depends how they position him. If will he be positioned in a top spot? And I find it interesting that, like, this guy could show up there and within like 2 months or a month become the champion, become WWE champion. And what a different night and day story now, right?
Mm-hmm.
What a I keep going back to that because I think that's the optic that they want.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen, but if you could look at this and have this photo of Cody holding the title, and then it says he dumped AEW for WWE for becoming world champion. You know, it's gonna be a PR war. I could see it. So will he be a needle mover? I think if they pay him enough, they're going to try everything to make him a needle mover. I don't know as far as if the viewership is going to accept it, because who's gonna cheer for him? Are the AEW fans gonna, if you're an AEW fan, are you gonna cheer for Cody in WWE because you're gonna look at this guy as he turned his back on you? Already they were booing him. He's a babyface that was getting booed, and now you dislike him even more. Great character development, but I don't know if it was organically done.
Yeah.
But it was decided. I think it was organic. I don't think it was manufactured.
Yeah. It's a business, brother, for those people who are going to be mad at him for leaving.
Brother.
All right. So we had another couple questions on Brandy, just sort of like, her job within AEW, chief Brandy officer. She also had, she also cultivated lots of relationships with, I don't know if someone had mentioned Amanda Huber, if she kind of maybe takes a bigger role in the company if Brandy is gone. I don't know the answer to that question, and maybe it's something that I can talk
For
to
the
Dave
brand
about
officer?
this weekend. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a marketing position, right? Essentially,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's a
Yeah.
CMO position. I know that they have multiple people on that marketing team, so I don't know if they're going to. Somebody's going to get it. I don't know how. I don't know what Brandy was actually doing as far as the marketing
And it
goes.
may
I know
not
that she
even
was-
be an on-air person as well.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we did it, man. I think we got through everything. The only thing we didn't get to, unfortunately, I was going to do a little bit of Elimination Chamber preview, but are you watching this thing live at noon for you?
Yeah, man. I love it. I love a matinee show. That's going to make me really happy.
Yeah,
Noon
I think I'm
show.
I think I'm gonna figure out how to watch it live as well. I think it's like 9 a.m. my time, so that's a little early. But
Even better. I take
breakfast
a
with
9 a.m. show. Yeah.
breakfast with
Breakfast in Saudi
WWE.
Arabia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be watching it. I was thinking about maybe doing a watch along on F4W, and people are interested. Nobody's interested, then I'm not gonna do it. But I think it's the card looks really good. If you want to go through that card, Elimination Chamber list.
I think I have it up.
Okay.
So Lashley, Lesnar, Seth Rollins, Austin Theory, Matt Riddle, AJ Styles in the Elimination Chamber for Lashley's title. Becky against Lita for the Raw Women's Championship. The Usos versus the Viking Raiders for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Roman Reigns versus Goldberg. This is Goldberg's last match on his current contract. Is that right?
Is it the last or he has one more?
I thought it was the last one.
It could
But
be the
I
last.
might be off on that. For Roman's belt, Drew McIntyre versus Madcap Moss in a Falls Count Anywhere. But I think like the sword is legal or something like that. Like there's like some wackiness involved in this match.
God. I want this to end. I want this whole thing to end. I don't know why Drew's in this position with them.
I think I would guess he's probably post WrestleMania number one contender for one of those titles. So they just got to figure out what to do before Mania. And then in the Women's Elimination Chamber, it is Liv versus Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair versus Doudrop versus Nikki Ash. And I think, is it Alexa Bliss who was the secret person? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Alexa's in there.
And then we'll get to see this great angle on Friday with Ronda and Charlotte, where we saw the live video of it where Ronda tried to ram Charlotte's head into the table and didn't quite go that well. But Ronda and Naomi against Charlotte and Sonya Deville, and then just announced last night Rey Mysterio against The Miz. So that's your card.
Hey, also,
if you do
one more match, one more match.
Is there? Wait, what did I miss?
Mansoor and Jinder Mahal.
Wow. I didn't know that one. But if you do a live watch thing, I could pop in if I'm watching live as well.
That'd be awesome.
I'll definitely try to make it. All right, so so Thursday morning we got Matt Men with you and Rich. And I'm sure
our 400th episode.
Wow, that's a lot.
400, episode number 400.
So more continuation of what stuff we talked about, I'm sure, and what else ever comes up between now and then. And then
Tons, I'm
Wrestling
sure.
Observer Live. Do you have a guest yet? I saw you had Lance Storm on last weekend.
We had Lance on last week. I don't have a guest lined up for this week. I'm working on it. Now everything changes, obviously, with this
Yeah.
story. So with everything going on, so I want to bring in someone that could talk about it. I had Brandon Thurston on the week prior talking about television ratings and in WWE business. Fantastic. I really enjoyed doing that. And Lance is always great. You know, Lance was fantastic on the show. So yeah, Sunday, Wrestling Observer Live back at 6 p.m. Eastern. Lance gets mad when I call it East. 6 p.m. East. 6 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
So we're
So
going to talk about that and a whole lot more.
my podcast, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, Fight Game Podcast. I think we're going to be delayed one day. I have something to do tomorrow night that won't allow me to watch Dynamite in time. So we're probably going to delay it for one day. It'll probably be Thursday night, Friday morning for that show. And then I think Dave and I are going to be on Wrestling Observer Radio, probably talking the awards, maybe with a guest. I'm not 100% sure yet. That's always kind of up in the air at this point, but hopefully a guest that maybe even one that people will be really familiar with. So that is what to look forward to for the rest of this week. And yeah, so we are done here. Great show, great topic. I love talking about this stuff with Andrew. So
Always
we even
fun.
got we when we get to do the sort of I don't even know what you'd call it, the business stuff or the analytical stuff, or not just about the matches. Like I really enjoy that as well. So for Andrew, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.